Should Washington Commanders rookie quarterback Jayden Daniels be the favorite for NFL Rookie of the Year over Caleb Williams? We talk about that and so much more coming up next year on Locked On NFL.
You are Locked On NFL, your daily NFL podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On NFL, your daily NFL podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Ostreicher. I'm the host of Locked On Ravens and one of the many NFL experts here on our network, the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for being here and making Locked On NFL your first listen each and every day, and just a part of your day in general. We're free and available on all podcasting platforms. That includes in video form on YouTube and audio form, wherever you get your shows. Today's episode of Locked On NFL is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, the sport stops sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. We're talking Rookie of the Year today, Jayden Daniels, and even a little bit of Drake May as we dive into those two. We talked with Lauren Cox of Locked On Bears a little while ago about Caleb Williams and if he could be favored. I mean, he is favored for Rookie of the Year now, but Jayden Daniels, could he be a dark horse to maybe overtake Caleb Williams, or should he be the favorite? We'll talk with David Harrison, Locked On Commanders, about that in the first part of the show. Then we'll talk about Rhamondre Stevenson and that Drake May conversation too with Mike Debate of Locked On Patriots. And then finally, in the final part of the show, Dan Wade of Locked On Chargers will join us to dive into the Chargers' new offense, Ladd McConkey, and a lot more. So without any further ado, let's first get into our conversation with David Harrison of Locked On Commanders. The Washington Commanders are hoping that Jayden Daniels can become the next future of their franchise. Took him number 2 overall in this past draft. Here to talk about expectations, potential Rookie of the Year, and more is David Harrison, the host of Locked On Commanders. And David, I know that a lot of hopefuls in Washington, that they're hoping that Jayden Daniels can turn things around for the franchise. There's been a lot of hype, especially after he's been drafted, that him and the Commanders could be scary in 2024 and everything surrounding him. He has potential all-pro talent here, but we know that we've gone through OTAs, we've gone through minicamp. I want to start based off of what you've seen and what you've heard from Jayden Daniels. What has he been like, and has he impressed you so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's pretty much answered every question you could ask him to answer at this point in time, right? Obviously, no pads, no live pass rushes or anything like that. But as far as, professionalism, he's been a professional, and he's been just kind of a personable player. Like, even when he's off camera and you're just kind of walking past him or interacting with him, off the record, quote unquote, just an upstanding young man. You know what I mean? Very excited to be in the position that he's in, enjoying practice, having fun doing what he's doing, enjoying his coaches, enjoying his teammates. It's actually a lot of fun watching him and Sam Hartman. So the undrafted free agent quarterback out of Notre Dame, he and Sam actually worked out together in the draft, process leading up to the draft. So they got to know each other very well. And I mean, they're just two dudes out there playing ball and competing, you know what I mean? And any chance Sam gets to rub it in Jayden's face that he does a drill better, or, they use the 3-hole net a lot. So if he hits his, but Jayden missed his, and he makes sure to rub it in, and Jayden gives it back just as much. And, but at the same time, they're also learning from a veteran like Marcus Mariota. And, I think the biggest story out there is Jayden is showing up every morning at 5:45 a.m. He's doing kind of, an independent film study. I'm sure the quarterback's coach, Tavita Pritchard, is involved in that. But Luke McCaffrey, the rookie wide receiver out of Rice, is also showing up around that time, and they're going into the inside facility, into the bubble, and they're doing kind of their own little walkthrough, right? And Jayden's like going through checks with Luke, and Luke is lining up and running routes for him, and just that type of initiative, right? Like from a McCaffrey, you almost kind of expect it, which is a little bit unfair to Luke, because I don't think people look at Luke doing it and go, oh man, what a great young man, because like Super Bowl champion dad, Super Bowl contending brother, like, what I mean? So you're kind of like, yeah, of course McCaffrey. It's almost like Kennedy's, like, of course he's a politician. So you look at Luke McCaffrey, he almost doesn't get enough credit for it, but Jayden Daniels getting a lot of credit for that. And then even Terry McLaurin, right, went on ESPN with Van Pelt and mentioned his poise, and also his command. Like when the vets and rookies came together for the first time, Jayden is in the huddle, commanding the huddle, giving the play call out, and he's at the line making checks and making adjustments. And the veterans are like, bro, like, you're already to this point. You know what I mean? So he's impressing a lot of people in a multitude of ways. And I think that's exactly how you win over a locker room.
Yeah, 100%. I know with all that, with the hype that comes with it, Rookie of the Year, everybody is already talking about it. I know odds are all over the place right now, but obviously it all seems to be in favor of Caleb Williams, who obviously went number 1 overall to the Chicago Bears. Now, in your mind, David, do you feel like Jayden Daniels has a real shot at winning Rookie of the Year and could surpass Caleb Williams in that by the time the season is over? And do you think that people aren't giving him enough credit there right now?
So I think he could, right? I think he could. And as long as the Lions have Jayden Daniels as the second favorite to be the offensive rookie of the year, then I think they're giving him enough credit. Now, if they're putting him behind someone else, I don't even know who. I know that a lot of people are really excited about Jonathan Brooks in Carolina and think that he might be the best rookie running back this year, but I wouldn't put him above Jayden Daniels. But I would have Caleb number 1. And the biggest reason I would have Caleb number 1 is, the defense in Chicago is not expected to be like the best defense, but if they're not bad either, and the defense they have is by and large the defense they had last year, and hopefully in their sake or for their sake, improved even in continuity and stuff like that. So you kind of have a known commodity, right? Whereas in Washington, I mean, they had one of the worst defenses, if not the worst defense last year, worst pass defense, and 2/4 of that secondary, if not 3/4 of that secondary, are going to be the same players. Now the scheme and the style they play with is going to be different. Certainly that could have an impact. But if you're just going to go with what we know today, Bears D versus Commanders D, the Bears D wins, right? And obviously the better defense gives takes a little bit of pressure off of the quarterback. If you can keep the score low, then your quarterback doesn't have as much pressure. But then you do flip to the offensive side of things. The Commanders have an almost completely rebuilt offensive line, so that's a huge question mark. The Bears, again, not the best O-line in the NFL, but certainly probably most would consider better than what we saw the last time Washington was out there. So that's impactful. The weapons, DJ Moore, they go out there and spend a draft pick on another receiver. They bring in Keenan Allen. I think they have a pretty decent run game. Cole Kmet is pretty solid as well. I think you just look at Caleb and you have to say like this is a number 1 overall pick who did not get drafted by a number 1 overall team because the Carolina Panthers were the number 1 overall team, right? So I think you have to be, if you're being fair and honest, Caleb has to be the favorite, but I do think Jayden should be the second favorite. And certainly once things get rolling, could become that dark horse and end up winning. I think no matter what, Kevin, I think, and you can't bet on this, unfortunately, but I think no matter what, the race is going to be tighter between the top 2 quarterbacks this year than it was last year.
Oh yeah, no doubt, 100% about that. But I think
it's not really
also,
a hot take. I think that's
right.
Most
yeah,
people think, no doubt.
I don't think, not too crazy of a take there. But it would be interesting if you could end up betting on that, like what the actual margin would be in terms of votes. But I know for you, David, we talked right after the Commanders took Jayden Daniels and about just expectations for him and the offense that the Commanders have surrounded him with, talent-wise, weapon-wise, and whatnot. But as these last couple of months has gone on, as you have seen him work, seen him up close, has any of that changed for you? Just kind of taking it day by day in terms of what you'd like to see from Jayden Daniels during his rookie season?
I mean, I think you just want to see, again, you want to see that command, that control translate to the field. And that's always the biggest question with a rookie quarterback, right? Is when the bullets are live and when the defenders can hit and all that stuff, how much you're going to be able to kind of respond to that. And so far, the thing I do like about him is he reacts to the defense in real time. He doesn't react to them like it's practice. So, I've seen him make, off balance, off the back foot throws and in a 2-minute drill situation where you need a touchdown to win and it's 4th down and you're in the pass rushes in your face. Sometimes you see a quarterback just kind of let the defender run by him and then make a clean throw and say, yeah, we scored a touchdown. But Jayden instead is trying to avoid the defender. If he's got to throw off his back foot, he throws off his back foot because that's the play and that's the real play, right? And I like that about him. So as long as you kind of see those parts of it continue. Obviously, the big issue with Jayden all through the draft process, right, was contact. Can he withstand contact, and how much unnecessary contact is he going to take? Hard to evaluate that at this stage in the game. But all the other intelligence factors that he's been showing, just hopefully that continues there. So really, as long as you see a guy who is confident, in control, and smart, there's going to be some plays. I think you have to accept that with Jayden. Like, there's going to be some plays where like, man, like, bro, I wish you would have gotten down there. But that's any mobile quarterback, right? Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, they're all going to take unnecessary hits. Caleb, I'm sure, is going to take an unnecessary hit or two this year as well. But minimize it and don't make it as big of a concern as it was in the process leading up to him being selected.
David's great. And for more on David, check him out over the Locked On Commanders podcast. And of course, right here on Locked On NFL, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Coming up in the second part of the show, we talk with Mike Debate about Rhamondre Stevenson, Drake May, and a lot more. Stay tuned, plenty to get to here on Locked On NFL. First, the show is brought to you by FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel's hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. So, for example, the MLB just in full swing right now. Gunnar Henderson here in Baltimore is in the thick of the MVP conversation. Adley Rutschman has been doing incredible for the team. So parlaying those two guys together seems like a good idea. Also for the Ravens, they open up against the Chiefs in the opening game of the NFL season in a couple months. And FanDuel has them right now at 2.5-point underdog. So if you want to bet on that money line, it'll be changing, I'm sure, throughout the next couple of months. But you can get on that action over at FanDuel. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. We're back our second segment of Locked On NFL. Kevin Oestreicher still here with you on this Monday. Again, really appreciate everybody for tuning in today, making Locked On NFL a part of your day. Also, be sure to make Locked On Sports Today a part of your day with Peter Bukowski, who takes you through the entire sports world right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Let's talk with Mike Debate now. Rhamondre Stevenson gets extended. Drake May conversation, a lot more coming up with Mike now. New England Patriots extend Rhamondre Stevenson. Here to talk about that with me and a lot more. Patriots is Mike Debate, the host over at Locked On Patriots. Mike, always a pleasure to speak with you. And we've talked a lot this offseason because the Patriots have been keeping busy, making moves, getting guys under contract. The latest being running back Rhamondre Stevenson, who I think earned this one. Mike, can you kind of talk a bit about the deal, the specifics, and what went into extending Rhamondre here?
Oh, absolutely. Look, I think right now what this deal told me was that the Patriots not only have a great deal of faith in Rhamondre Stevenson being their lead back, but also how important he's going to be to that offense in New England. When you look at what Rhamondre has done for the first 3 years of his career here, obviously first year was kind of a feet wet type deal, really kind of become acclimated, didn't really have a whole lot in terms of, responsibilities placed on his shoulder. But his second year really told me all I needed to know about how the Patriots viewed him. 1,040 yards, 5 touchdowns, 5 yards per carry, 69 catches for 421 yards and 1 touchdown as a backfield receiver. This guy has the ability to not only blend both power and finesse on early downs, but he can be a third down weapon. He can be a receiver out of the backfield. Rhamondre has such a blend of what the Patriots love to employ in their running backs. I think guys like Elliott Wolf, Gerard Mayo, and especially Alex Van Pelt sat down and said, this needs to get done. We need to keep this guy in the fold. And if you look at Alex Van Pelt's offense, Kevin, you know it's predicated on a strong running game, facilitating play action, opening things up in the field, and then being able to take the deep shots down the field with a quarterback with an arm to get the ball there. Rhamondre is a key linchpin in that, and I think that's why they made sure they wanted to lock him up for the foreseeable future.
And now I know, Mike, there's a lot of conversation about paying running backs in today's NFL and how worth an investment that is for teams. Now, Rhamondre got 4 years for $36 million. We've heard a lot of the discourse. For you, do you think that deal was an overpay, an underpay? Was it just right for you? And do you think that it is a worthy investment for New England, considering how important you say he's going to be for that offense moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at what Rhamondre was able to earn, I think it's kind of disingenuous to call it an underpay, but I certainly don't think it was an overpay. I'm more or less feeling that this was just right. He's 7th right now in current running back contracts and guaranteed money. They're giving him a lot of guaranteed money in this deal. $17 million obviously is a good price to pay for a running back that, I shouldn't say running backs in general, but if you think about it, when you look at the position, prone to injury, not a long shelf life, that's a lot of money to put out there. But when, again, you take a look at what Rhamondre brings to the table and how he complements this offense and really is the catalyst of what this offense is going to be, I think the Patriots took a look at that and said, okay, well, you know what? We need to invest in this position. Typically not a position that the Patriots invested in under Bill Belichick. He would have taken a look at that 3.2 million salary that Rhamondre was going to earn this year if he wasn't extended. And Bill would have rode with that every single day of the week and twice on Sunday without any question. Gerard, Elliott, and of course, Alex definitely sat down and said, we need to get this job done. We need to get Rhamondre happy. We need to get him motivated, and we need to get him excited about this season. What's the best way to do that? Contract extension, boost his pay. And yeah, that's exactly what you're going to see. So, yeah, I think some Patriots fans may be a little concerned, but it didn't really hurt the Patriots salary cap position that much. They're still well positioned. They could still go out and make moves if they need to. This is a kid that is very important to their offense. So in my opinion, worth the investment.
Yeah, money motivates. You have it right there. So we'll see. But to that point, Mike, the Patriots still maybe might not be done. Are there any other extension candidates? I know I asked you this last time. You mentioned Rhamondre in your answer, and here we are. Are there any other players you could see getting an extension from New England maybe before the season or even during the season?
Well, I mean, if I'm speaking with my heart and my head, I'm going with Matthew Judon at this point. I mean, you mentioned guys that are so important to what the Patriots do and how they do business. Rhamondre is one of the keys to getting things done offensively, but Judon is almost as vital when you look at this defense. I love Christian Barmore. I love Christian Gonzalez. I think those two guys are going to be stars, maybe even superstars on this team in the sooner part of their careers rather than later. But Judon is so elementary when it comes to what this team does. When you talk about giving that secondary an opportunity to get set and the front seven providing pressure on the quarterback, Judon is key in that. He facilitates guys like Joshua Uche and Dietrich Wise to be able to get after the quarterback and be able to put pressure on. He's also very instrumental in being able to get after the quarterback himself. When Christian Barmore has taken the double team like he does so well, Matthew Judon is the guy that's going to pin his ears back and he's going to put pressure and get after the quarterback. So if the Patriots want to have a formidable front seven, Matthew Judon's the guy that's going to get them there. I understand that if he's playing for his contract, he's going to have a little more of a chip on his shoulder, but Judon is not the type of guy that needs that chip in order to play well. We've seen him play at a very high level coming off of signing a very big contract when he first came here to New England. That $6.5 million salary that he's going to earn this year is a bargain for the Patriots, but not a bargain for Matthew. I think virtue has to lie in the middle. Both sides have to come together. I'd love to see this get done.
And now moving from veterans to rookies, obviously, Mike, the Patriots made a big decision in hoping the next future of their franchise is Drake May, taking him third overall in this past draft. There's a lot of conversation about who he will become at the next level. Obviously, that starts with these early offseason workouts before training camp begins. To you, everything you've seen, everything you've heard, how has he looked so far from OTAs to minicamp? And do you think that there is pure rookie of the year potential for Drake May in year one?
Oh yeah, I definitely think there is. The question is how long is he going to be on the field? Does he get the opportunity to earn that chance? Because right now, I would still say that if the season started tomorrow, Jacoby Brissett would be your starter. I just think he's that much further ahead. He's got experience in Alex Van Pelt's offense. The Patriots still have question marks in terms of how their offensive line is going to stack up. That's going to be the biggest problem with Drake seeing the field early as opposed to later. You need to make sure that he has that solid protection. Patriots have some question marks to work out there. However, if in fact the fundamentals are there, yeah, definitely. For everything that I see from Drake, every time he steps on the field tells me he's getting better. The fundamentals are getting better. His footwork is getting better. It's getting more sharp. His throws are being executed with greater crispness. They're being executed with greater accuracy. He's got the arm strength. I don't think anyone's ever questioned that. This kid is a joy to watch throw the football, but he's doing smart things with the football. He's checking the ball down, which is something that I thought he was going to have a lot of problems adapting to because of that gunslinger type style he played with at UNC. He's doing a much better job of executing the art of temperance, as I like to say, and I think that's going to help him. Some of the fundamentals still need a little bit of work. Alex Van Pelt is now coaching him to lead the shotgun with his left foot as opposed to his right. We saw him do it with his right foot for years with the Tar Heels. Now he's leading it with his left based on motion, based on the way they like to coach this team and how they like to run their offense. That still needs a little bit of work. And yeah, there's definitely some questions about handling pressure and being able to utilize his skills at a pro level. But Drake has all of the tools necessary. If he gets the significant amount of playing time he needs, I think he'll be in the conversation.
Mike is incredible at the Patriots content. For more on Mike, check him out over the Locked On Patriots podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Coming up, we'll be rounding out Locked On NFL with Dan Wade of Locked On Chargers. We talk Greg Roman, Ladd McConkey, Justin Herbert, and a whole lot more. Stay tuned, plenty to get to on the show. We're back our final segment, Locked On NFL. Kevin Ostreicher is still here with you on this fine Monday. Again, I appreciate everybody for being here. Be sure to subscribe and follow along, video form and audio form. You're not missing out on any content, whether you like to watch or listen to the show. Let's talk with Dan Wade now of Locked On Chargers. The Chargers are putting in a new offensive system. They have Jim Harbaugh, Greg Roman. Let's talk about it now. The Los Angeles Chargers are gearing up for what hopefully will be a rebound season. And here to talk about that with me is Dan Wade, the host over at Locked On Chargers, one of them over there. And Dan, I know that with new coaches in there with Jim Harbaugh, Greg Roman, the whole shebang, a lot of people are expecting this offense to take a leap, not to mention the team in general with how much talent they have. But I think when you talk about the actual system they'll run, Greg Roman has been known during his tenures with the 49ers, the Bills, the Ravens to be a very run-centric coach. Obviously, Harbaugh and Roman are familiar with each other from back during their San Francisco days. But you would think that running backs, they want carries. You would think so. Well, Austin Eckler last week had some very eye-raising comments about how that really wasn't what he was looking for and why he ended up going to Washington to play for the Commanders. Can you just kind of dive into what those comments were, and were they something that shocked you, and did you think it was the main reason behind why he left? Or, I mean, how newsworthy and how news was it to you?
I mean, not super newsworthy, I guess. I mean, to me, it's, okay, running back complains about, getting asked to have too many carries. It's kind of a weird thing you don't think is going to pop up on your timeline. But to most extent, like, he's right. You know what I mean? Like, Austin Eckler was never going to be the running back that you want to go, kind of give 300 carries a season for. He's just not built like that. And that's not how you use Austin Eckler to his, the best possible way. So I wasn't super surprised to see that. Like, I think it was also pretty lukewarm interest from the Chargers. I don't think Austin Eckler fits what Greg Roman wants to do. I just don't. I think that who they got and guys we've actually seen in the system before, and that Gus Edwards, right, J.K. Dobbins in their time with the Ravens, those are guys that more fit what he wants to do. Could Austin Eckler have been successful in Greg Roman's offense in some sort of role? Sure, but I don't know why he would want to do that. I don't know why they would want to do it. I think they're going in a completely new direction where they want to be a little bit more physical. They want to be man schemed. They want to move people off the football and have running backs that are going to finish runs and set them up in better situations. And that just really wasn't Austin Eckler's game. He was always kind of a boomer bust between the tackles runner. So it didn't really make sense for them to bring him back in free agency. I wasn't surprised to see him go elsewhere. It was a little surprising to see those comments, but I honestly kind of think he's right. He's not meant to, especially at his age, be taking 300 carries a season.
Yeah, we know Greg Roman will certainly use the running backs the Chargers have because he's already familiar with them. You mentioned Edwards and Dobbins during their time with the Ravens. Now, in terms of the receiver position, we also know that, especially during his time with Baltimore, Greg Roman did not have, the best wide receiver groups, and the Chargers made a lot of moves at the wide receiver position this offseason. They move on from Keenan Allen. They move on from Mike Williams. They do draft, though, Ladd McConkey out of Georgia in the second round, 34 overall. Signed his rookie contract this past week. What have you seen from him, and is he going to be the number one receiver in this offense by far, or do you think that there are going to be other challengers for that role, including another first-round pick there in Quentin Johnston?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and I think he could absolutely lead this team in targets. I don't think that's out of the question by any means, and I think when you look at just the talent disparity in the Chargers wide receiver room, or at least like a lack of a known commodity, I think you would have to at least believe that it could be him. And honestly, I don't even know if it's Quentin Johnston that could be second in line for that. I think if there is a wide receiver one that's not Ladd McConkey in year one for him, I think it would be Josh Palmer, who is actually the only receiver in that room since 2019 that's actually had a 700-yard season. They do have DJ Chark, who they brought in after the draft, who has had a 1,000-yard season back in 2019 with the Jacksonville Jaguars, but feels like a lifetime ago. It feels like it's Joshua Palmer or Ladd McConkey at this point, but it's hard to imagine Ladd McConkey could impress any more than he's impressed so far in his short time with the Chargers. Obviously just signed the historic rookie contract with the most guaranteed money for a 34th overall pick. But I think it's mostly just the fact that his game was already so pro-ready. Like, that was one of the main things when just watching Ladd McConkey coming out, was just the footwork, the route running. So many parts of his game are already kind of above average, even at the NFL level, just with how quickly he can get in and out of his cuts, how good he is on comeback and out routes and things of that nature. And I think you saw that early on at OTAs. And I think the one thing you really love to see was the chemistry between him and Justin Herbert growing. I mean, anybody we've talked to, that's all, any amount of OTAs or minicamp, the first name they brought up was always Ladd McConkey. So I think that's awesome. I think early last year, you never saw that relationship develop with Quentin Johnston and Justin Herbert, and it showed up throughout the season. And a lot of that was because he was behind Josh Palmer and Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Guys they were the first string offense, right? So they didn't really have that chemistry. The chemistry for Justin Herbert and Ladd McConkey is happening early and often, and it's growing already, and I think you love to see that. The biggest thing is going to be health. I think that it remains the biggest kind of red flag with Ladd McConkey is just, you're seeing it more now, but wide receivers at that size in the NFL is a very new trend. You don't see a ton of guys. Now you have Devontae Smiths and guys like that out there that have had a ton of success. And I think if he can stay healthy, he will have a really good season. But that is just the one thing that is stopping me, I guess, from getting fully on board the Ladd McConkey wide receiver one hype train.
Yeah, I totally hear you with that. I think it is, the health is the biggest factor for a lot of these guys. But if he can stay healthy, I think a big year for Ladd McConkey is in store. Now, in terms of Roman and his system, Dan, we know, again, as I mentioned earlier, very run heavy. What are you expecting? Because look, you can't just run the ball 400 times and not expect Justin Herbert to, go out there and be okay with that. He wants to throw the ball. So what do you think this is going to be split wise? Because obviously when you have a quarterback as talented as Justin Herbert, you got to have him throw the football.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be as dramatic as some people think it is. I would say, hey, they're going to throw the football more than they're going to run the football, which hasn't always been the case, especially in his time with Baltimore. But it's always hard to draw parallels when someone is coming from working with such a different quarterback in Lamar Jackson, right? Like if you're looking at the rushing attempts and the rushing yardage that those teams are putting up, that's never going to be Justin Herbert's game, right? And Lamar Jackson, and not only him, what he did with his legs, but also the things that he opened up with his legs, I think were a huge reason why you saw the scheme the way it was in Baltimore. Maybe part of that is the lack of receiving talent. The fact is, he has Justin Herbert. If you hear him talk about Justin Herbert, I mean, you can tell he's blown away by the dude's mental acuity and just pure ability to throw the football. And Lamar Jackson's an MVP, but him and Justin Herbert are such different types of quarterbacks that to think that you're going to get the offense you saw Greg Roman run last with Baltimore, I think is just not going to happen. I think it is going to be new. I think having them bring in someone like a Mark Trestman who gave, Matt Fortes and Martellus Bennett's the seasons of their life and their time with Chicago back in the day, Alshon Jeffrey, the same thing, made Jay Cutler a borderline Pro Bowl quarterback, was brought in for a reason, right? Marcus Brady, former offensive coordinator for the Colts, was brought in for a reason to be their passing game coordinator. So I think you're hoping that the Chargers will be much more well-balanced. I think that you're hoping that you can take some of the load off Justin Herbert, because it has been Justin Herbert put on the Superman cape, because you're not going to have a run game for an entire season. So often in his young career, it will look more balanced. I think the rushing game will improve. Anywhere that Greg Roman's ever been has had a top 10 rushing unit. It's just been what it is. Like, no matter where he's at, no matter what is available to him, he's at a top 10 rushing attack. So you give that to Justin Herbert and you kind of, help him a little bit. I think he's going to be a much more efficient version of himself. I think he'll still put up numbers, but I don't think you'll maybe see the video game numbers we've seen in years past.
Dan is amazing. And for more on Dan, check him out over at Locked On Chargers, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. That's all I have for you here today on Locked On NFL. Thank you so much for tuning in. Come up tomorrow, more NFL content with the Tuesday host. So be sure to stay tuned. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On NFL.